The calm before the storm. In the quiet town of Maplewood, Nebraska, where life moved at a pace that felt almost nostalgic, there was an air of simplicity that enveloped its residents. With a population hovering around 800, give or take a few depending on whether you counted old Mr. Thompson, who had been living in a retirement home for years, Maplewood was a place where everyone knew everyone else's business. It was here that our story begins. Agnes's weekly tradition. At the heart of this quaint town lived Agnes Harper, an 82-year-old widow with a penchant for card games and homemade pies. Every Friday evening, she transformed her modest living room into a gathering place for her friends, an eclectic mix of neighbors who shared stories, laughter, and sometimes heated debates over their favorite card games. Her reputation for hosting these gatherings was well known. Not only did she serve delicious snacks, her chocolate chip cookies were legendary, but she also had an uncanny ability to turn even the most mundane evenings into memorable events. As Agnes prepared for another card night, she hummed softly while rolling out dough for her famous apple pie. Her kitchen smelled heavenly, cinnamon wafted through the air as she sliced apples with precision. Outside her window, children played tag on the street while their parents chatted amiably on porches adorned with flower pots bursting with color. It was a scene that epitomized small-town life, a comforting backdrop that made Agnes feel secure. But as she glanced out at the clear blue sky, something caught her eye, a flicker of light that seemed out of place against the serene horizon. She squinted, trying to make sense of it. Was it just her imagination? Perhaps it was one of those new drones that had become popular among tech-savvy teens? Shaking her head dismissively, she returned to her baking. An ominous presence. The flickering lights intensified as evening approached, casting an eerie glow over Maplewood. By 6 o'clock, when Agnes's friends began arriving, each bringing their own dish or snack, the sky had transformed into a canvas of swirling colors. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Shades of purple and green danced above them like some cosmic ballet. "Did you see those lights?" asked Marjorie, one of Agnes's closest friends, as she entered with a plate stacked high with brownies. "Lights? What lights?" Agnes replied absent-mindedly while arranging chairs around her dining table. "Oh dear. You must be losing your eyesight," Marjorie exclaimed dramatically. "There are strange lights all over. I heard on the news there might be an alien invasion." Agnes chuckled at Marjorie's flair for dramatics but couldn't help but feel a twinge of curiosity herself. "Well, if they want to join us for poker night, they'd better bring snacks," she joked. As more friends arrived, each one adding their own flavor to the evening, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement and laughter. Yet outside, that ominous glow continued to pulse in rhythm with an unsettling hum that resonated through the town. The town's reaction. While inside Agnes's home laughter echoed through the walls, outside in Maplewood chaos began to unfold. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, children stopped playing as they pointed at the sky in awe and fear. The local news station interrupted regular programming with urgent updates about unidentified flying objects hovering above various parts of Nebraska. "Stay indoors," blared a voice from radios across town. Authorities are advising residents to remain calm as they investigate reports of potential extraterrestrial activity. But calm was not what Maplewood experienced. Instead, it was pandemonium masked by polite Midwestern manners. People rushed about trying to make sense of what was happening while still offering friendly waves to one another. Agnes remained blissfully unaware as she set up her card table and arranged snacks within arm's reach. "I've got my famous 7-layer dip ready," she announced proudly as her friends settled in around her. A momentary distraction. Just then, a loud crash reverberated through the air, a sound so profound it rattled windows across Maplewood. Everyone froze mid-conversation, eyes widened in disbelief as they turned toward the source of the noise. "What was that?" Marjorie whispered nervously. Agnes shrugged nonchalantly while pouring lemonade into glasses adorned with cheerful sunflowers. "Probably just one of those pesky teenagers crashing their bikes again," she replied dismissively. But deep down inside her heart raced slightly faster than usual. Perhaps there was more at play than just youthful mischief. As they began dealing cards and sharing stories about their week, the usual gossip about neighbors' antics, Agnes couldn't shake off the feeling that something monumental was about to happen in their little town. The unfolding mystery. Outside, however, things were far from ordinary. A massive spaceship had descended upon Maplewood's outskirts, a colossal structure shimmering under the strange lights above it, settling down amidst cornfields that had seen better days thanks to Tom Henderson's questionable farming practices. Meanwhile, back inside Agnes's home, laughter erupted once more as they played their first round of poker, unaware that their lives were about to change forever due to events unfolding just beyond their cozy walls. As cards were dealt and snacks were consumed amidst friendly banter about who would win tonight's game, the world outside continued spiraling toward an unexpected twist that would soon intertwine with their lives in ways no one could have predicted. The arrival. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over Maplewood, the atmosphere shifted from one of excitement to palpable tension. The townspeople, who had been buzzing with anticipation for Agnes's weekly card night, now stood frozen in disbelief as they watched the massive spaceship settle into the nearby cornfield. The air was thick with uncertainty, and every eye was glued to the sky, where ominous purple clouds swirled like a cosmic tempest. The town's reaction. In the heart of Maplewood, Agnes remained blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding outside her home. She adjusted her glasses and continued to set the table for her card game, humming softly to herself. The smell of freshly baked cookies filled her kitchen, mingling with the tangy scent of lemonade that she had prepared earlier. "Nothing can ruin my poker night," she muttered defiantly, dismissing the distant rumble of what sounded like thunder. Meanwhile, outside, panic began to ripple through the town. Neighbors rushed from their homes, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. Children clung to their parents' legs as they pointed skyward, their innocent faces reflecting both awe and trepidation. The local news station had interrupted its regular programming, broadcasting live footage of the spaceship's descent. "This is not a drill," blared the anchor's voice. "Reports confirm that an unidentified flying object has landed in Maplewood. We urge residents to stay indoors." Hazel's determination. Back at Agnes's home, she continued her preparations with unwavering resolve. "If those aliens want to crash my card night, they better bring snacks," she quipped to Mr. Whiskers, her sleepy cat who seemed unfazed by the commotion outside. She poured herself a glass of lemonade and took a moment to appreciate her cozy living room, adorned with family photos and trinkets collected over decades. Just then, her phone rang again. This time it was Ethel again, her neighbor who lived 2 houses down. "Hazel. You have to turn on the news. There are aliens. Actual aliens." Ethel's voice trembled with excitement and fear. "Ethel," Agnes replied calmly while setting out her favorite poker chips. "I've been through tornadoes and blizzards. I'm not going to let a few extraterrestrial visitors ruin my game night." "But Hazel," Ethel started. "Listen," Agnes interrupted, "I'll be fine. If they come knocking at my door, I'll just invite them in for a slice of pie." With that, she hung up and returned to her preparations. The first contact. Outside, as if on cue, metallic pods began descending from the spaceship. Each pod landed with a thud that rattled windows across Maplewood. The townspeople gasped collectively as they watched figures emerge from the pods, tall beings clad in shimmering armor that reflected the strange lights overhead. Commander Zix stepped forward, his imposing figure silhouetted against the backdrop of his ship. He expected chaos, a scene of screaming humans fleeing in terror, but instead found himself greeted by curious stares and whispers among the crowd. His voice boomed through advanced audio technology as he announced their presence: "Humans of Earth. We have come to conquer your planet." A surprising invitation. But before he could continue his proclamation of domination, a familiar voice rang out from Agnes's porch. "Excuse me," she called out cheerfully, holding up a plate of freshly baked cookies. Do you happen to like snickerdoodles? I made extra for tonight's poker game. Zix paused mid-sentence, his antennae twitching in confusion at this unexpected interruption. The otherworldly warriors surrounding him exchanged bewildered glances. This was not how invasions were supposed to go. Commander, one of his lieutenants whispered nervously, should we accept her invitation? Are those cookies? Zix asked hesitantly, his resolve wavering as he caught a whiff of something delicious wafting through the air. Yes. Agnes replied enthusiastically. I promise they're out of this world. And we're just about to start a game of Texas Hold'em if you'd like to join us. The soldiers looked at each other in disbelief. This was not part of their invasion protocol. A change of plans. After a brief moment of hesitation, Zix nodded slowly. We accept your invitation, he declared, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity despite the absurdity of the situation. Wonderful! Agnes exclaimed as she beckoned them toward her home. Just make sure you don't scratch my floors with that armor, I just had them polished. As they entered her living room, carefully maneuvering around furniture, the warriors found themselves in an environment far removed from their expectations of conquest. Instead of weapons and war plans, they were met with an array of snacks laid out on Agnes's dining table, chips and dip, cookies galore, and even a 7-layer dip that promised layers upon layers of flavor. What exactly is a full house? Commander Zix asked curiously as he observed Agnes shuffle cards with impressive skill. It beats 2 pair, Agnes replied matter-of-factly while handing him a stack of chips. The warriors looked at one another again in confusion. This was not what they had trained for. The game begins. As Agnes dealt cards around the table, inviting everyone to take part, the atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to light-hearted camaraderie. Laughter filled the room as she explained game rules while sharing anecdotes about previous poker nights filled with friendly rivalries and outrageous bets. Now remember, she said playfully while eyeing Zix's glowing third eye suspiciously. No telepathy. That's cheating. The aliens looked bewildered but intrigued by this strange human custom. They had come prepared for battle but found themselves drawn into an unexpected evening filled with laughter and snacks instead. As they played round after round, each hand revealing more about their personalities than any battle strategy could, the lines between conqueror and conquered began to blur in ways none could have anticipated. And so began an unforgettable evening in Maplewood, a night where Galactic Overlords became unlikely card buddies under an ominous sky filled with swirling colors and uncharted possibilities. Unlikely guests. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere in Agnes's living room transformed from one of uncertainty to a delightful chaos. The Zix warriors, clad in their shimmering armor, found themselves seated around the table, their imposing figures contrasting sharply with the cozy surroundings filled with family photos and handmade decorations. Agnes, with her silver hair neatly styled and her blue cardigan adorned with only 3 moth holes, stood at the center of it all, ready to lead this unexpected gathering into a night of fun and games. Setting the stage for poker night. Now then, Agnes said, shuffling a deck of cards with the finesse of a seasoned dealer. Welcome to poker night. I hope you're all ready for some friendly competition. She glanced at Commander Zix, who was trying to adjust his massive frame into a chair that seemed far too small for him. And remember, no telepathy. We play fair here. The aliens exchanged puzzled looks. They had come to Earth expecting resistance and fear, not cookies and card games. Commander Zix cleared his throat, attempting to regain his authoritative presence. We are the Zix, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, he proclaimed, though his voice lacked the thunderous conviction it had held earlier. We shall not be intimidated by your snacks. Agnes chuckled lightly. Well, that's good to hear. Snacks are essential for any good game. Now, who wants to learn how to play Texas Hold'em? An alien introduction. The Zix warriors were hesitant but intrigued. Commander Vorn, Zix's second-in-command, leaned forward, his glowing eyes reflecting curiosity. "What is this?" "Texas Hold'em," he asked. "It's a card game," Agnes explained patiently as she began to deal cards to everyone at the table. "You'll get 2 cards each and then we'll place some community cards on the table. The goal is to make the best 5-card hand using your cards and the community cards." 5-card hand? Vorn repeated, scratching his head as if trying to comprehend this strange Earth custom. "Yes," Agnes replied enthusiastically. "And if you're lucky enough to get a full house, you'll beat 2 pair every time." The aliens listened intently as Agnes explained the rules in simple terms. She demonstrated how to bet and raise while ensuring everyone understood what was happening. With each round of cards dealt and each snack consumed, chips with guacamole and her famous 7-layer dip, the tension that had once filled the room began to dissipate. Cultural exchange through cards. As they played, Agnes took the opportunity to learn more about her unusual guests. "So tell me about your home planet," she prompted Zix while munching on a cookie. Zix hesitated before responding, clearly unaccustomed to casual conversation during an invasion scenario. "We come from Zixon, 7, he finally said. "It is a world of vast deserts and towering crystal mountains." "Sounds beautiful," Agnes exclaimed genuinely. "Do you have any favorite foods there?" "Food?" Zix echoed, looking perplexed. "Yes. What do you eat?" "I can't imagine conquering worlds on an empty stomach," she laughed. Vorn chimed in, "We consume energy capsules primarily, they provide sustenance for our kind." Agnes raised an eyebrow playfully. "Energy capsules? You're missing out. You should try my chocolate chip cookies, they're out of this world." The laughter that followed was infectious, even the stoic warriors began to relax in Agnes's presence. They were no longer conquerors but guests enjoying an evening filled with laughter and camaraderie. A friendly rivalry emerges. With each round of poker played, friendly rivalries emerged among the players. Agnes quickly established herself as a formidable opponent, her years of experience shone through as she skillfully read her opponent's expressions, even those with glowing eyes and advanced technology. "Aha! I see that twitch in your antennae," she teased Commander Zix after he raised his bet dramatically. Zix blinked in surprise but couldn't help but chuckle at her keen observation. "You are quite perceptive for a human." "Years of practice," Agnes replied with a wink as she revealed her winning hand, a full house that sent cheers erupting from her friends around the table. As the game continued into the night, stories flowed freely between rounds of betting. The aliens shared tales of their conquests, though they were more humorous than intimidating, and Agnes recounted amusing incidents from her life in Maplewood. Bridging worlds through humor. The laughter grew louder as they exchanged jokes across cultural divides. Agnes told stories about her son's childhood antics, like the time they tried to build a treehouse that ended up collapsing spectacularly, and Vorn shared tales of his own misadventures during training exercises that went hilariously wrong due to miscommunication among his crew. Once, Vorn said with wide eyes, "We attempted to invade a planet that turned out to be entirely composed of gelatin. We bounced around like fools." Agnes roared with laughter at this image, picturing giant armored aliens bouncing helplessly on wobbly terrain. "Now that sounds like something we do around here," she exclaimed between giggles. As they played on into the night, snacks dwindling but spirits soaring, the line between alien conquerors and human hosts blurred further still. They were no longer strangers from different worlds, they were simply friends enjoying an evening together. An unexpected bond. Eventually, as laughter turned into comfortable silence punctuated by occasional chuckles over inside jokes, Commander Zix leaned back in his chair and surveyed the gathering before him, humans who had welcomed him into their home without fear or hostility. "We did not expect this," he admitted quietly, almost shyly for someone who had once boasted about conquering worlds. "Your customs are strange yet delightful." Agnes smiled warmly at him. And your company is surprisingly enjoyable. Who would have thought I'd be sharing cookies with galactic conquerors? Zix nodded thoughtfully as he glanced around at his fellow warriors engaged in friendly banter with their human hosts. Perhaps there was more to Earth than conquest and domination, perhaps there was room for understanding and friendship instead. As midnight approached and card hands were played down to their final bets, something remarkable began unfolding, not just between Agnes and her alien guests but within each warrior's heart as well, a realization that maybe conquering didn't have to mean destruction, it could also mean connection. And so they continued playing late into the night, an unlikely gathering of galactic overlords and small-town friends bonding over cards and cookies under an alien sky. A game of strategy. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere in Agnes's living room became increasingly lively. The Zix warriors, once poised for conquest, were now fully immersed in the strange yet delightful customs of human card games. Laughter echoed off the walls as they exchanged stories and jokes, their initial apprehension fading into a sense of camaraderie. Agnes, with her warm smile and infectious spirit, had managed to turn an impending invasion into an unforgettable poker night. The stakes are raised. Agnes shuffled the cards expertly, her hands moving with the confidence of someone who had played this game for decades. "All right, everyone," she announced, her voice bright with enthusiasm. "Let's raise the stakes a bit. How about a friendly wager? Winner gets to choose a snack for everyone." The Zix warriors looked at each other, their expressions a mix of confusion and intrigue. Commander Zix leaned forward, his glowing eyes fixed on Agnes. "What is this wager you speak of?" "It's simple," Agnes replied, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "We'll bet snacks instead of money. If you win, you get to choose what we eat next week. If I win, you have to help me with my garden this spring." "Help you, garden?" Vorn echoed, a perplexed look crossing his face. "What does that entail?" "Pulling weeds, planting flowers, basic stuff," Agnes explained casually. "And trust me, it's harder than it looks. But I promise I'll make it worth your while with homemade pie." The warriors exchanged glances again, their competitive spirits ignited by the prospect of a new challenge. "We accept your wager," Zix declared boldly, his confidence returning as he envisioned the delicious snacks they could choose. A battle of wits begins. With the stakes set and excitement buzzing in the air, Agnes dealt the first round of cards. The Zix warriors leaned in closely, their eyes scanning their hands and the community cards as if they were studying battle plans. Vorn furrowed his brow in concentration, he had never encountered such a strategic game before. Agnes watched them closely, amused by their intense focus. "Remember," she reminded them playfully, "it's all about reading your opponents. You can't just rely on your fancy technology to win this one." Zix nodded solemnly, trying to suppress a grin. "We shall employ our tactical skills to outmaneuver you." As the game progressed, Agnes found herself impressed by how quickly the aliens adapted to human customs. They began to pick up on subtle cues, how Agnes would smile when she had a strong hand or how she would feign disappointment when she was bluffing. Unexpected alliances. In one particularly tense round, Agnes raised her bet significantly after seeing a promising combination of community cards. Zix hesitated for a moment before matching her bet with a confident smirk. "Do you truly believe you can defeat us?" he challenged. Agnes leaned back in her chair and chuckled softly. "Oh dearie, I've been playing poker longer than you've been alive. If you think you can intimidate me with your armor and fancy titles, you're in for a surprise." The laughter that followed broke any remaining tension in the room. The warriors realized that this wasn't just about winning, it was about enjoying each other's company and learning from one another. As they played on, unexpected alliances formed at the table. Vorn began teaming up with Agnes against Zix, sharing strategies and tips while snacking on cookies between rounds. "Perhaps we should consider forming an alliance outside this game as well," Vorn suggested during one particularly intense hand. What do you mean? Agnes asked curiously. Your planet is rich in resources, Vorn explained thoughtfully. We could work together to enhance both our civilizations. Agnes raised an eyebrow but smiled knowingly. Now that's an interesting idea. But remember, trust is earned through friendship, not conquest. A shift in perspective. With each passing round of poker, something remarkable began to happen. The Zix warriors started to see Earth, and its inhabitants, in a new light. They had come expecting resistance but found themselves welcomed into a home filled with warmth and laughter. As they shared stories over snacks, Agnes recounting tales from her youth while Zix shared humorous anecdotes from his own adventures, the lines between conqueror and conquered blurred even further. I never imagined humans could be so entertaining, Zix admitted during a break between hands. Agnes smiled warmly at him. And I never thought I'd be sharing cookies with galactic conquerors. Life has its funny twists. The night wore on as they played hand after hand, laughter punctuating every round. Each time someone won or lost, it felt less like competition and more like camaraderie, a shared experience that transcended their differences. The true meaning of conquest. As midnight approached and the game reached its climax, Agnes decided it was time for one final round, a showdown that would determine not just who would win the wager but also solidify their newfound friendship. All right everyone, she said dramatically as she shuffled the cards one last time. This is it. The final hand. Winner takes all. Zix leaned forward eagerly while Vorn adjusted his posture for maximum focus. The stakes were high now. Not only did they want to win snacks for next week's gathering but also to prove themselves worthy opponents against this remarkable human woman who had turned their invasion plans upside down. As they dealt cards and tension filled the air once more, it became clear that this wasn't merely about winning or losing anymore, it was about understanding each other's worlds and forging connections that could lead to something greater than conquest. And so they played on, an unlikely alliance forming over cards and cookies under an alien sky filled with swirling colors, a testament to human resilience and ingenuity that would echo through time long after this night faded into memory. The showdown. As the final round of poker began, the atmosphere in Agnes's living room was electric. The Zix warriors, who had come to conquer Earth, were now fully engaged in a game that had become more than just a competition. It was a bridge between two worlds. The stakes were high, not only for the snacks but for the future of their relationship. Would they leave as conquerors or friends? The final hand. Agnes dealt the cards with a flourish, her eyes sparkling with excitement. All right, everyone. This is it. The last hand of the night. She could feel the tension building in the room as she glanced at her opponents. Zix sat across from her, his expression serious as he studied his cards intently. Vorn, meanwhile, was still trying to wrap his head around the concept of bluffing. Remember, Agnes said with a grin, it's not just about what you have in your hand, it's about how you play it. Zix nodded, determination etched on his face. We will not be outsmarted by a human. As they placed their bets, Agnes felt a rush of adrenaline. The stakes had never been higher. If she won this hand, the Zix would agree to leave Maplewood in peace and perhaps even return for more games in the future. If they won, they could choose their snacks for next week, and who knew what else they might demand? The tension mounts. The community cards were revealed one by one, a 7 of hearts, a 10 of diamonds, a king of spades. Agnes felt her heart race as she assessed her hand. She had 2 pair, 2 kings and 2 tens, but she needed to play it smart. All right, she said confidently, I'm raising. Zix raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. Bold move, human. Vorn looked at Agnes with newfound respect. You are skilled at this game. Years of practice, Agnes replied with a wink. As the final community card, a queen of clubs, was placed on the table, Agnes felt a surge of hope. This was her chance to win big and secure peace for her town. The moment of truth. With all bets placed and tension hanging thick in the air, it was time for everyone to reveal their hands. Agnes took a deep breath and laid down her cards. "I have 2 pair, kings and tens." Zix smirked as he revealed his own hand, a 3 of a kind with 3 queens. "I have 1. Agnes's heart sank momentarily before she remembered that Vorn still had yet to reveal his cards. "Not so fast. Let's see what you've got." Vorn hesitated for just a moment before flipping over his cards, 2 aces and a jack. "I have 2 pair as well. Aces and jacks." The room erupted into cheers and gasps as everyone realized that Vorn had won the hand, against both Zix and Agnes. A new understanding. As Vorn basked in his victory, Zix looked at him with newfound admiration. "You played well," he said grudgingly. Agnes smiled warmly at Vorn. "Congratulations. You've earned your snack choice next week." Vorn grinned broadly, clearly pleased with himself. "I shall choose the finest earth delicacies. Just no energy capsules." Agnes quipped, causing everyone to chuckle. With the game concluded and snacks secured for next week's gathering, something shifted within the Zix warriors. They had come to conquer but were now leaving with something far more valuable: friendship. A farewell and new beginnings. As the evening drew to a close, Commander Zix stood up and addressed everyone in the room. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice steady but filled with warmth, "we came here expecting resistance but found camaraderie instead." Agnes beamed at him. "And we're glad you did. You're welcome back anytime." Zix nodded solemnly. "We will return, not as conquerors but as friends." He turned to Vorn and added with a hint of pride in his voice, "And I look forward to our next poker night." With that promise hanging in the air like an unspoken bond, the Zix warriors prepared to leave. They carefully maneuvered their way out of Agnes's home, taking care not to scratch her floors or bump into any furniture. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Agnes waved goodbye enthusiastically. "Don't forget your cookies," she called out. The warriors paused momentarily before Commander Zix turned back toward her. "We will cherish these cookies as symbols of our newfound alliance." A celebration in Maplewood. Once the Zix had departed back to their ship, leaving behind only faint traces of their presence, Agnes turned back inside her home where her friends awaited her eagerly. "What just happened?" Marjorie asked incredulously. "We made friends with aliens." Agnes replied gleefully while pouring herself another glass of lemonade. The room erupted into laughter and cheers as everyone began discussing plans for next week's poker night, this time with an intergalactic twist. As they shared stories late into the night about their unexpected adventure with Commander Zix and his crew, it became clear that Maplewood would never be quite the same again. Reflections on humanity's strength. In that small farmhouse filled with laughter and joy, Agnes realized that sometimes unexpected events could lead to extraordinary outcomes. What began as an ominous invasion had transformed into an opportunity for connection, a reminder that humanity's strength lay not just in its resilience but also in its capacity for kindness and understanding. As she settled down for bed later that night, Agnes couldn't help but smile at how one simple poker game had changed everything, not just for herself but for an entire town that would now forever hold a special place in its heart for galactic visitors who loved cookies just as much as they did. And so ended this chapter of Maplewood's history, a tale woven together by laughter, friendship, and perhaps most importantly, a reminder that even amidst chaos and uncertainty, there is always room for understanding across galaxies.